Hello students, this is the third video on our first chapter. In my earlier two clips, I have explained the emergence of the two power blocks, the reasons for the alliances, and the consolidation of these alliances through various pacts. Now, if you haven't watched my earlier clips, I'll be leaving the link in the description below so that you can easily access those, okay? In this clip, I'll be talking about the non-aligned movement. I'll be covering the formation of NAM, what NAM is not, India and the NAM or the Cold War, and finally, the relevance of NAM in today's world. So this map actually is taken from your textbook, and if you look at the map, you'll see three colored regions. Now we have already learned that the world started to divide into two after the Second World War under the US and the USSR, which actually led to the Cold War. Okay, smaller nations, as soon as they gained independence or when they became free, they would either join the United States or the USSR for the various reasons which we have already covered in our second clip. Okay, so with the world turning into two different alliances, that is the Western alliances in yellow color and the Eastern alliance in red color, the newly independent countries or the ones in green color, the green colored countries, as you can see in the map, also known as the Third World, were afraid that they would lose their freedom as soon as they gained it. Okay. Moreover, there were cracks and splits amongst the alliances as well. So, in order to stay out of both the alliances and in order to save their freedom as well, they came out with an option. And this option was that they formed non-aligned movement. Okay, so the option was non-aligned movement. Now, what is non-aligned movement? Non-aligned movement actually is a policy which means staying away from power politics, military alliances, and Cold War. Okay, so non-aligned movement actually means staying away from power politics, military alliances, and Cold War. And non-alignment also advocates an impartial approach towards world issues without being influenced by either bloc. So which means that whenever there is any world issues, they would take the right decision and not being under the influence of any of these two superpower blocs. Now, the founders of NAM are Jawaharlal Nehru of India, Kwame Nkrumah, Prime Minister of Ghana, Jamal Abdel Nasser, President of Egypt, Sukarno, President of Indonesia, and Joseph Broz Tito, President of Yugoslavia. Now, if you talk about the formation of NAM, the origin of the movement actually took place in Bandung Conference in 1955. Okay, so a conference of the Asian and African countries actually was held in April 1955 in Bandung, which is in Indonesia. So there they discussed on finding a common ground or rather a common agreement for future cooperation, and they declared anti-colonialism and neutrality between the East and the West. Okay, so this actually led to the Brno Conference here. Now, the principles which were adopted at the Bandung Conference, they were actually given a practical shape at Brno, which is in Yugoslavia, in July 1956. So the notion or the idea of non-alignment was actually put forward in 1956 at a meeting between the then Egyptian President Jamal Abdel Nasser, Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, and Yugoslavian President Joseph Broz Tito. Since a number of small and medium sized nations suffered a lot due to the conflicts between the Eastern and Western military blocs, uh, they thought that NAM actually was the best option. So, although the origin of NAM took place in Bandung Conference, but it took its actual, form in the Brunei Conference of 1956. Okay, now, the first summit or the conference of NAM took place in Belgrade, Yugoslavia in 1961, and that conference was actually attended by 25 countries. Now, the latest or the 18th summit of NAM was held in 2019, that was in last year in Azerbaijan, and as of now, NAM has 120 members. Now, what were the reasons for the formation of NAM? Or you may also be asked the Belgrade Conference and the culmination of three factors. Either way, it's the same question. Okay, so culmination actually means something that has attained after a long time. So it simply means three factors that has developed by the time of Belgrade Conference, that was in 1961. All right. So the points are: first, cooperation among the five countries. Here, the five countries refers to the five NAM founders. The consideration of Asian and African countries as racially backward. Okay, because those times the Asian and African countries were, considered as a backward countries, and especially in terms of race also they were considered racially backward. And this consideration of the Asian and African countries as racially backward brought a commonness feeling and brought these nations together. And moreover, they also shared the same historical problems. After staying under colonial rule for so long, they were determined to stay away from colonial influences, since they were afraid they might be conquered again. So, the friendship and the cooperation of these five leaders is said to have led to the birth of NAM. Okay, second we have is the growing Cold War tensions. Now, the Cold War tension was growing and the arms race was at its full swing. So, joining either of the two superpower blocs would mean investing in the arms race, which would, of course, cost a lot of resources. And the newly independent countries actually were not in a position to afford such high expenses, and they further wanted to focus on their own economic development, which actually was the need of hour at that time. And moreover, they also wanted to preserve their freedom and did not want to become again the tools of either of the bloc. So, third is the dramatic entry of many newly decolonized countries. Now, by 1960, so many Asian and African countries have gained independence, and 16 new African members, in fact, have even joined the United Nations. So, with so many decolonized countries with same historical problems as well as the issue of development, which I just described earlier, that is the economic development, they sought a way out of the power alliance, that is the formation of NAM. Now, the principles adopted for NAM at the Bandung Conference were mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference in each other's affairs, equality and mutual benefit, peaceful coexistence. Now, these principles are collectively known as Panchsheel, laid down by Nehru, and are the basic guidelines for the functioning of the NAM. We won't go it in detail. Now, NAM, as I described earlier, is a policy of staying away from the power politics, military alliances, and Cold War. However, the policy of staying away of alliances should not be considered isolationism or neutrality, because many a times NAM is mistaken for isolationism and neutrality. So NAM or a non-aligned movement is neither isolationism nor neutrality. Okay. Now, isolationism means remaining away from world affairs. For example, the United States stayed aloof from the world politics from American War of Independence till World War One, which means USA did not take any part in world politics during the sad period that was from American War of Independence till World War One. However, NAM countries did not avoid from international responsibilities of any kinds, which means they do not stay aloof. Okay. In fact, the NAM countries played an active role in mediating between the two rival alliances in the cause of peace and stability. Okay, so NAM doesn't mean staying aloof. They have, in fact, during the Cold War, took an active role in the cause of a world's peace by mediating between the two rival alliances. Second is the non-alignment is not neutrality. Now, neutrality means policy of staying out of war. A country who practices neutrality, they do not involve in wars. All right. They do not take any stand, and they even do not try to stop the war. They are like, kind of least bothered. All right. However, NAM nations are not neutral. Okay. They do not stay neutral. They were actively involved in wars. They, first of all, they try to prevent wars. Okay. And if in case a war has broken out, then they try all means to stop it. Okay, so NAM countries, since they are actively involved in either stopping or preventing wars, we can say that NAM is not neutral. Then we have India and the Cold War, or NAM. Now, India has played an important role during the Cold War. We know that it was one of the founding members of the NAM. In fact, the term non-alignment itself was coined by Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, as already mentioned earlier, the 5 principles of NAM, which was based on Panchsheel, also we know that was laid by Nehru. So these clearly shows that India has played an important role in the Cold War in the form of its NAM policy. Now, we have already studied in the earlier slide that NAM is not isolationism nor negative. And since India was a member of NAM, its policy towards Cold War was also neither negative nor passive. Let's do India's policy towards the Cold War point-wise. First is soften the Cold War. Now, India not only tried to soften the Cold War rivalries by intervening in world affairs. That is, whenever there was any dispute between the two superpower blocs, it took active role in reducing or in stopping the dispute. So besides trying to soften the rivalry between the two superpowers, India also involved other members of the non-aligned groups, those countries which are not the member of the alliance, in softening the Cold War as well. The second point is just an elaboration of the first point. Now, in softening the rivalry between the two superpowers, it tried to reduce differences between the alliances, thereby preventing differences from escalating into a full scale war, meaning stopping the differences between the two superpowers so that the differences doesn't turn into hot war. Okay, now in doing so, India has often acted as a mediator between the two rivals. For example, Korean War. Okay, and third is the India's response to Cold War. Now, India's response to Cold War is twofolded. First, it stayed away from the two alliances, and second, it raised its voice against the new decolonized countries who actually had joined the two alliances. Okay, and the fourth policy is NAM's and India's interest. Now, India's joining of NAM has also been beneficial to India since it has served India's interests. For example, as a non-aligned, India could take international decisions that, in fact, has served India's interest rather than the interest of superpowers and its allies. Second is that because of India's NAM policy, none of the superpowers can take India for granted. And in that process, India can get benefits from both the superpowers. India's NAM policy was, however, criticized on the basis of different reasons. First, it was said to be unprincipled. Now, India's non aligned movement was said to be unprincipled because whenever there was any crucial or any important international issues which might involve India's national interest, then it is said that India often has refused to take firm stand on such international issues. Okay, so in the name of pursuing India's national interests, it has often refused to take a firm stand, especially on crucial or important international issues. Second is that India's policy was also said to be inconsistent. India was said to be inconsistent, and that it was also said that India has taken contradictory postures as well. For example, although India has criticized others, the other nations for joining alliances, India itself signed the Treaty of Friendship with the USSR for 20 long years in August 1971, which was completely contradictory to its policy. Finally, we have the relevance of NAM in today's world. Now, the Cold War ended in 1991 with the collapse of the USSR, which we'll learn in our second chapter. However, with the end of Cold War, the question arises whether NAM, which was formed during the Cold War to stay away from the alliances, is still relevant. Because since NAM was formed in the context of Cold War, it should have ended with the end of Cold War, right? However, it still exists. Now, well, the fact that NAM exists today, that also with 120 members, which are also in the UN General Assembly itself, shows that it is relevant in today's world. So, what is the relevance? Well, NAM contains some core values and enduring ideas which has kept the policy of NAM relevant even after the end of the Cold War. Okay, the first one being unity as a powerful force. Now, NAM, a powerful movement, is actually a result of the unity of many decolonized states who were nothing in front of the two superpowers. All right. However, once these small decolonized states came together, united, they became a powerful force. So, this recognizes that unity can become a powerful force and can even challenge any power bloc. All right. Second, we have is the independent foreign policy. It also values sovereignty. Now, many small and poor countries need not become followers of any of the big powers, and that they could pursue an independent foreign policy. So basically, it said that in order to enjoy independent foreign policy, size and power of a country doesn't matter, because many of the NAM countries, although being small, they enjoyed the independent foreign policy because they were not under the influence of any of the two superpower blocs. Okay. Third one is the democratization of international system. Now, NAM constitutes of 120 developing countries, and they act as a check on the big power ambitions. It stood as a unifying force against the traditional foreign policy of the great power. NAM was based on a resolve to reshape and democratize the United Nations so that the domination of the powerful countries is checked. Okay, now with the passage of time, it emerged as the alternative world power. Now, with its strength and motive to democratize the international system, it has proved its qualification as alternative world power, which actually would promote equality and peace all over the world, and even provide new dynamics to the existing world's politics, for example, the expansion for the United Nations Security Council. Finally, we have the shift in emphasis. Now, NAM's emphasis has shifted from political issues to economic issues by the mid 1970s, and thus they work towards poverty alleviation, establishment of a new international economic order, that is NEO, which is based on equality and justice, and the promotion of industrialization. NAM, as of now, its most important role is in protecting the economic interests of the third world countries. A quick recapitulation. In today's clip, we learned about the emergence of NAM as an alternative or challenge to the bipolar system. We learned about the five founders of NAM and how NAM originated from a Bandung conference. We then also learned about the first NAM conference, that is Belgrade conference, and its importance, or in the sense, the Belgrade conference and its culmination or development of the three important factors by then. The same points could also be used for the causes for the formation of NAM as well. Okay. Next is the principles of NAM, which was simply based on Panchsheel of Nehru. NAM, however, should not be confused with isolationism or neutrality. We then learned about India's policy towards Cold War or NAM, and criticisms against India's NAM policy. Finally, we talked about the relevance of NAM, how NAM is still relevant in today's world despite the end of the Cold War and the bipolar system, which actually led to the birth of the NAM. Okay. Now we're only left with the arenas of the Cold War, which I'll be covering in my next video. Okay. So until I see you in my next video, take care and bye-bye.